Hello. So we have some produce starting to pile up. This is by no means all of it. There's a ton in the fridge. There's like 3 more zucchini in the fridge. There's a whole bunch more peppers. There's some garlic scapes we haven't dealt with yet. They're about a month old, so that needs to get addressed today. But one of the other things I wanted to mention with the Every Bit Counts challenge, I have time to deal with quite a few things today. I'm gonna take advantage of that time. I don't have time every day to necessarily do like a project, you know what I mean? You know, we're picking and freezing blackberries every day now. We're getting probably between a half pint and 3/4 of a pint at a time. We're doing other things like dehydrating herbs, what other small type projects, like harvesting, things like that are getting done on a daily basis, but not necessarily preserved, like you would think of for the Every Bit Counts challenge. But I think in the spirit of that challenge, you take advantage of the time you have when you have it, right? So if you have time to spend a whole day, you know, preserving a whole bunch of things, I say go for it. You do what you can when you can do it. And that's all we're doing here today. So we're gonna get some of this stuff dealt with today. There's been a couple days where, like I said, other than putting blackberries in the freezer, we haven't had time to do anything else. So playing a little bit of catch up today and dealing with some of the things that we have, so they are preserved and aren't just spoiling on our counter. All right, one small easy task here to start the day. I have a small bowl of ground cherries and there's no blackberries currently in the freezer. So we're gonna freeze these. I don't have enough to really do anything with. We have been eating a few fresh, but I would like to make, I don't know, jam or scones or something with them this year. We've never tried baking with them. So I'm gonna start, you know, freezing them and setting them aside in a baggie in the freezer. And then when we have enough to do something with, we will do something with them. I think one of the things I want to get done is deal with the peppers. These are some of the frigging best bell peppers I have ever grown. These are a hybrid variety. They are called Fat and Sassy, and I will definitely be growing these again. I have some that are ripening, mostly ripe. I'm gonna get those chopped up and just put in the freezer. But with some of these green peppers and the few jalapenos we have left, I am going to make like a jalapeno hot pepper jelly. It'll be green because I'm gonna use green bell peppers and the green jalapenos. So later in the season when we have a lot more ripe peppers, I will probably make another batch and make it red. But for now, this is what we're gonna do. The recipe I have calls for 2 jalapenos and 3 bell peppers, but it wasn't hot enough last year when I made it, so I'm going to use all 5 of these jalapenos. These are some of the smaller ones too, so they're not large. Probably 2 would be 1 large jalapeno anyway. So we're going to do that. These are a good size bell pepper. Sometimes when I'm using my homegrown peppers, I have to use 4 or 5 to get what I think is about 3 bell peppers. And probably some of these extra green peppers will just be chopped up and frozen for fajitas or other things later on. But we'll get started on these first. All right, so this is my peppers and vinegar blended together. This is a Company's Coming recipe from a cookbook that my mom has had for decades, I think. She was obsessed with those Company's Coming cookbooks. I'm gonna try reducing the sugar just a bit. The recipe calls for 6 cups. I have 5 cups in here. I've seen similar recipes with similar amounts of peppers and they call for between 4 and 6 cups, so I think I'll be okay. I've got my jars here. These are some fancy half pints, and then I have just like the little tiny 4-ounce jars. This is like a good size for Jarrett and I, like a single evening serving or whatever. So I'm gonna just fill as many of these jars as we get. I'm using liquid pectin. That's what the recipe calls for. So I'm gonna turn the heat on, add my sugar, and follow the directions. Friends, we have plans for the day, but first I'm just kind of like, I have the windows open and I'm enjoying the weather so much. It's supposed to be hot today, like it's supposed to get to like, I don't know, 30 degrees Celsius or something like that, but it got down to like 10 or 11 degrees overnight, and there's just the humidity in the air. It's still humid out, but it's not the same suffocating humidity that we have been having for most of the summer, and there's just like a crispness. It's starting to feel like September, you know, when it's late summer, and I love this time of year. I don't know if it's, I was always, you know, someone who liked school, and I don't know if it's like remnants of fond memories going back to school, seeing your friends, stuff like that. And then when I became a gardener, you know, September's kind of our season of abundance here. So I'm just happy this morning and really enjoying the breeze coming in the windows. I can hear my neighbor mowing his lawn. Yeah, I'm loving it. But what we are gonna do today, and what I'm gonna, you know, make myself get up and go do here, is our freezers are pretty full. We've got like 2 flats of strawberries. We've got 2.5 quarts of blackberries in there. There's all those potatoes that I made and egg rolls. I have plans for more egg rolls because we've got 4 cabbages to figure out what to do with. I want to make some cabbage rolls, and I'm gonna try a new trick with the cabbage for that. I've never made cabbage rolls, but my mom and my grandmother always used to make them, and you know, they would boil the head and peel the leaves off, and it was like a whole thing. So I've got a new trick to try. And then in the process of filling the freezer, I have a turkey carcass down there, and I want to make use of some of our broccoli from the garden to make broccoli soup. And for that, I need chicken stock or vegetable stock or whatever. So I have a turkey carcass. I might as well make some turkey broth and use that in our soup. So that's going to be the first thing I have to get going, because it's going to have to simmer, you know, all day. Yeah, so let's get started doing stuff. I totally forgot how big this turkey was, so it doesn't quite fit in the crock pot, but as it warms up, it'll be a little more malleable. I'll be able to stuff it in. I've got 10 cups of water in there. I saved all the bones from the turkey, so we have all the leg bones and all of that. There's some carrots, a couple carrots that were older in the fridge. I've got some of my mini onions in there. They're so bad. Guys, game on. Next year is it. We're doing the onions. Like, I've had enough of these mini onions. I've got our own dried parsley. I have some dried celery leaves, which reminds me, we have celery again this year. I didn't grow any last year, but it's gonna be time to start preserving that soon. What else do we have in there? I'm gonna put a little bit of salt and pepper, or I'll probably put some peppercorns in, and I'm gonna throw a couple of garlic cloves in as well. And I'm gonna let this simmer. I've got it set for an hour or 2 on high first, and then I'll turn it on low. I just wanna get it get it started where it's frozen. And then I'll put a splash of apple cider vinegar in as well. And that's gonna be it for the broth. Guys, got the dehydrator going, but the very first few paste tomatoes are starting to ripen on the vines. So these are the very first two, so definitely not enough to do much with. So what I'm doing is I am cutting them in half and I am scraping out the core and the seeds. I'm gonna freeze these on a cookie sheet and chuck them in a bag, and then as the harvest starts to come in and we have enough to actually do something with, we will do something with them. But this is what I'll do in the meantime. All right, I've got here one of our gorgeous cabbages, and the little hack that I read about was instead of having to steam or boil your cabbage head and peel the leaves away, another way to do it is to wrap it in plastic wrap and stick it in the freezer just until it's frozen solid. Then when you remove it from the freezer, you'll be able to peel layer by layer off of your cabbage. It won't be hot, you won't be dealing with boiling water. It just sounds a whole lot easier. So I'm gonna give this a good wash, let it dry a little bit, wrap it in plastic wrap and stick it in the freezer. So we'll probably not get to cabbage rolls until tomorrow, but yeah, I'm gonna try it. Okay, we're motoring here. We're on to the broccoli soup. I just took 4 cups out. I'm still letting our stock simmer there. But 4 cups is all I need for the broccoli soup, so I took that out. I have a carrot and 3 or 4 of our mini onions, holy frig. So 1 onion, if you have like, you know, human-sized onions. There's 3 tablespoons of flour. We'll add salt and pepper. There are 4 tablespoons of butter in there that I'm gonna melt now. And then the carrots and onions will go in to get a little browned. I'll throw the broccoli in. Then we'll put the flour in and we'll make sure it is cooked for a minute or 2 before we add our stock. Then you just like cook it until the broccoli is soft. You add your cream and you use an immersion blender. So salt and pepper is the only seasoning that's going to go in here, and what you see here. All right, our soup is done. I'm just waiting for it to cool down so I can put it in containers and put it in the freezer. And we also got a few zucchinis that were kicking around in the fridge, shredded up. I'm gonna make some more zucchini bread. I've made a couple loaves already, and if there's any left over after doing that, I will probably bag it up and freeze it. All right, we're getting our garlic scape pesto done. I've got a couple cloves of garlic in there. These are last year's garlic, so I cut them in half and removed the growth point. This is about 2/3 full, 3/4, something like that, of the garlic scapes. I need to make sure that I leave enough room for about a 1/4 cup of olive oil. There's a couple teaspoons or tablespoons, sorry, of lemon juice, and about a 1/2 cup of Parmesan cheese and some salt and pepper. And that is everything that is in this except for the nuts. Normally you would put a 1/2 cup of toasted pine nuts. Those are hard to find where I live and they're really expensive where I live, so I substitute with walnuts. Okay, here's where we're at. I ended up with 6 of these little containers and 2/3 of another one with our garlic scape pesto. I will label these and freeze them just like this. This is what we ended up with for the broccoli soup, plus one of these containers. Jarrett took it for lunch today. I'll probably have this partial one today, and the other 3 will go in the freezer. And we ended up with, these are each 2 cups, so 4 cups of broth, plus I have a large silicone ice mold that I half filled with the rest. I didn't have enough to fill another one of these containers, but I did have enough to make 3 large ice cubes that I'll throw in with rice or something like that as we're making it later this year. All right, this is my plan for the cabbage rolls. I've got the cabbage thawing, the beef thawing, the rice is cooking, and you can stuff your cabbage rolls with either raw or cooked filling. My grandmother always did raw, but I'm going to go with the cooked method because I want to freeze these and I want to make sure the time in the oven is just to heat them up. I don't want to people to try, you know, cooking things and maybe they're not totally thawed and they don't get cooked all the way through. So that's what I'm doing. And what I am going to add as the sauce, there's lots of variations. Some people use tomato sauce, tomato juice, tomato soup, whatever. I have some Rotel-like tomatoes that I made last year. I'm gonna drain these and put the solids in with my meat mixture. The juice I'm going to add to just a tomato sauce that we made last year. It's kind of separated a little bit, watery on top. It was kind of watery to begin with, but that's okay for something like this. That's actually what I want. I have some dehydrated parsley. I'll add salt and pepper, of course, some onions, maybe some peppers, some garlic, and some dried mushrooms. Last year when I did this challenge, I tried drying mushrooms for the first time. And I also tried kind of partially cooking them and then you freeze them. And while I did like that method, I find this to be much more convenient. And anytime mushrooms are on sale now, I do this. It's just so convenient to have shelf-stable mushrooms available all the time. You know, they get like, you know, gross and slimy in the fridge if you don't use them right away. So we love mushrooms in this household, and this allows us, you know, these are great. We add them to stir fries. I'm gonna add them to something like this today. I'll probably chop them up quite fine along with some onion and garlic. And yeah, definitely try this if you haven't done it before. All right, we're getting our cabbage rolls made. This worked really well, freezing the cabbage head, but it's not thawed all the way to the center yet. So I'm gonna have some lunch and let that thaw out a little bit more. These are pretty big rolls here. I'm hoping to fit 4 in each one of these. And if we get that far with our filling, I'll be happy. This is what we ended up with for the cabbage rolls. These 2 I might just stick in the fridge, and Jarrett and I will have these for supper some night. And these ones are all going to get frozen. I think one of them is definitely going to my mom and dad. And if my brother will eat them, possibly one over to his house as well. Guys, this is everything we were able to get preserved this week. Well, almost everything. We've eaten some already. But of course we have herbs constantly in rotation in the dehydrator. This week I got some oregano, some parsley, and some rosemary dried, as well as a few calendula flowers. We've got our jalapeno jelly here. We ended up with 3 pints altogether in various size jars. We have our 2 cup containers of homemade turkey broth, as well as probably another cup or so in ice cubes in the freezer. This is our broccoli soup. There's only 2 left. This is about 4 cups. We had 9 cups total. Jarrett and I have been enjoying that for lunch this week. These are all of our cabbage rolls. These 2 probably Jarrett and I will have this week sometime. And these 3 are for the freezer. We've also got 2 quart bags of blackberries picked this week. I've started saving ground cherries to do something with. While I was at it, I froze some cherry tomatoes, and we've started freezing our paste tomatoes to make sauce later in the season when we have more to work with. So all in all, I'm pretty happy with what we got done this week, and I hope you come back for week 3. I have some fun things planned that I've never done before.